right, well, welcome back, everyone. So, speaking of cozy, what is making you feel cozy these days?
So I would say this week I have been taking advantage of the fact that I have like a million pillows around my house. And one of the things that I really love to do, especially after a long day, and it's really like an hour or two before I go to bed, I'll fluff up all the pillows on my couch and I like to just lay down and read. And so like that's what I've been doing this week. I have just been getting really cozy on the couch. For whatever reason, I can't do that on my bed. Like if I go to my bed and I like fluff up pillows and I try to read, I will immediately fall asleep, no matter what book it is. I think it's just one of those things for me. Once I'm in my room, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to bed. But yeah, that's what's been keeping me cozy this week.
I've been going to the same gym for like 5 years now, and it's a gym that's like right around the corner for me. I could really probably walk to it, but I don't. Of course, I drive. So for the longest time, they had a spin studio at that gym, and that was primarily what I would go for. And like, if y'all know me, I am not into cardio. Like, I hate cardio. Before starting going to this gym, I used to just like weight lifting and training like at a traditional gym. But for whatever reason, spin was like my thing for a while. But I was so crushed around December of last year, they actually shut down their spin studio and converted it to a hot studio. And I was honestly at first a little bit like not really open to it, but I've actually started going to a couple of like the hot yoga classes, and like the low impact workouts are just like keeping me cozy lately. My body actually feels better. I used to have to sleep with like a neck pillow because I had neck problems. I think probably from not really training correctly for a while. But like, I don't know, just like the combo of like a hot studio, it kind of loosens your muscles up a little bit, and then also doing low impact workouts like yoga and Pilates. It's making me actually feel better. So yeah, that's what I've been doing to stay cozy lately.
That's awesome. I love that.
So, for me, I blame my sister because I love, you can see it right here, like burning in the background. I love candles, and that's what's been keeping me cozy, especially during these like crazy Texas weather
Oh my
nonsense that we're
gosh.
having. We talked about it last episode too. There's been a crazy line of storms. I texted both of you last night just to make sure you were okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some crazy weather. And of course, first thing I do is always light a candle, see a
Yeah.
strand of lightning. But yeah, and it smells nice. So it's a win-win. I'm such a diva too, because it has to be Yankee. So yeah,
It has to be
that's what's
So
been
what?
keeping
we're
me
a
because a
Yankee
Yankee
Candle.
candle.
A Yankee candle?
Yeah, that's a like, Bath and Body Works has candles. There's also Yankee Candle Company.
I didn't know that.
We're a Bath and Body Works household,
Yeah, I was like,
so we've
I do
got
Bath and Body
our
Works.
Bath and Body Works
Yep.
candle
Yeah.
stash and like the wallflower plugins.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
that's
I
all I
know
buy
Bath and
too.
Body. I know
Yeah.
Bath and Body, but like I'm just surprised, like you don't even know the name Yankee.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know what you were talking about. I literally thought New York Yankees. I was like, cool.
Okay, I make this joke all the time, but like Jen literally lives under a rock.
I do.
Like there's so many things that she's just like unaware of all the
I'm
time.
But hey, I
gagged.
am blissfully unaware. Like, I love it.
I know, yeah, it's
It's
funny.
good because they're not cheap, so like
They're
Oh,
not,
good.
it's
See?
yeah.
good.
Yeah, no, thank you. I don't want it then.
It's like a whole thing.
But they last a long time. Not as because Bath and Body candles like burn out
They
in a
don't
day.
last. They're very
Yeah.
strong, but they don't last.
Like I've had this one
I'll
for a
give you
month,
that.
so we are continuing our read over A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is our first read after our first book that launched our podcast. So our first book was Onyx Storm. Now we're into A Darker Shade of Magic. Again, a reminder that I've already read this book before, but based off of our previous conversations that we've been having already, it's like I'm reading it for the first time because I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. So it's been an adventure second time around as well.
All right, friends, before we get started, quick spoiler warning. If you're listening to this episode, we're assuming you've read through part 10 of the book. So we will be talking about spoilers throughout the podcast episode. Now, as a reminder, the different sections in Darker Shade of Magic are different than chapters. So we are covering parts 6 through 10, and within those parts, there are several chapters within. So previously on A Darker Shade of Magic, we were introduced to Kell, who was a powerful Antari magician, and he was one of the last who could travel between the 4 parallel Londons, which were gray, red, white, and the now destroyed black. As an ambassador for Red London's royal family, Kell secretly smuggles magical artifacts between the worlds, despite it being forbidden. Meanwhile, we also get to meet Lila Bard, who is a bold and cunning thief from Grey London with dreams of adventure who's unknowingly tied to a larger destiny. So, right when we were ending our last part, there was a lot of tensions rising in White London, and it kind of seemed like Kell was being manipulated by the ruthless twin rulers who were Astrid and Athos Dane, and got tricked into delivering a dangerous artifact, which was a black stone pulsing with dark power. After being ambushed and gravely wounded, Kell barely escapes by traveling to Grey London, where he quite literally crashes into Lila, who goes on to steal the stone from him. So, let's just say that their worlds are about to change forever. All right, guys, let's get into our deep dive.
And that is a perfect way to kick things off because at the end of our last section, yes, Kell and Lila literally bump into each other. Lila takes it as an opportunity to show her true colors as a thief and say, hey, you're an easy mark. Let me just grab this from you real quick. And so she grabs the black stone. But yeah, what do y'all think so far between the meeting of Kell and Lila?
I instantly love their dynamic. I think they're so funny together and I find myself chuckling. So like obviously right now tensions are high. We know that the stone is not good news and we need to get rid of it. And you know, like Kell is already being pursued. Possibly they're trying to kill him, it seems like, because he's injured. But the first thing I noticed and like the first thing Kell even thought about Lila is that under different circumstances, he felt like they might actually be friends if they had met under different circumstances. And yeah, I'm just really liking their chemistry right now, even though it's like, you know, dangerous situation they find themselves in right now.
So, I'm not going to lie, for me, when I was thinking about our discussion for today and I was thinking about Lila and her character, um, I'm not saying I don't like her, but I actually found where these sections that we're going to talk about, I found her a little bit annoying. And it's actually something, it's just me, okay? But this is something I was actually telling
That's fair.
Stephanie the other day. We were talking about FMCs and we were talking about the one specifically from the Powerless trilogy we read. And I told her, I was like, I really like her. And I was telling her about another FMC that I really didn't like from Spark of the Everflame. And I told her, I was like, you know, why do they make all these FMCs stubborn and like too independent, right? And so it made me think of that when I was writing about Lila, like when I was writing about this moment with her and Kell. It's like true thief, right? She's going to steal the stone from him, but she doesn't know what it is. And I was really annoyed that she just was not listening. She was being too stubborn about all the warnings that Kell was trying to give her. And so I was just like, oh my God, see, here we go again. Like another FMC who's too stubborn, who doesn't listen. And so for me, like that got a little annoying. And I get it. Like she's looking for an adventure. She's looking for more. She just wants more out of life. Like I get that. But when somebody's trying to warn you about something, like, can we stop and listen for a sec? Like I even got annoyed with Violet when she did that, you know?
It's
So
totally
that's
true.
completely valid,
Yeah.
but this also highlights the different ways that we or why there's different reasons for why we like some of the same books. I was like giggling at that part of Lila's character because, you know, she just like stubbornly and almost like a child when Kell told her not to use it. She was like, "Ooh, magic, let me use it." And that just made me laugh. Like I was chuckling this whole time.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's some aspects like of the stubbornness of these characters because Lila is not the only one. Like Kell is plenty stubborn as well. But to your point, it's so overdone sometimes as that being a main character's main character flaw.
Right.
Like I'm looking at you, Katniss Everdeen, right? Like it's it gets too much. And I love the Hunger Games. I freaking
Right.
love that series. But Katniss gets so annoying after a while because it's the same flaw over and over and over again. She never learns. Really until the end, which really is kind of too late.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully Lila Lila is not that way, but it doesn't look too great going into that next little section just because we see the temptation of the Black Stone, specifically with Lila. And first and foremost, we know, the Antari, Kell and Holland, they're fairly powerful magic users. But we get the sense that if you're from Grey London, you're not supposed to be able to do anything magic, period. But that's not the case with Lila here.
Yeah, I actually felt like it was really interesting that Lila was instantly able to use the stone, like immediately as soon as she found out that there was magic in the stone. She used it to create herself a sword, and she like fancies herself a pirate without a ship. So like obviously a pirate is also going to need a sword. So that was the first thing she created for herself. And then shortly after that, she created a clone of Kel. And again, I'm like laughing about this because the Kel clone instantly starts stripping. Like Kel was trying to like dispel it, and she was also trying to dispel it. And like it again, it turned dark here for a second because black magic doesn't like to be dispelled, or like its main motivation seems to be to like proliferate and spread itself and corrupt whatever world it's in. But yeah, I was laughing at that scene too.
Yeah, I actually that's kind of what I picked up whenever the duplicate of Kel came about, like where he immediately like the duplicate itself was like, wait, they're trying to get rid of me, like I need to stop that from happening. And so there like magic kind of took a life of its own where like it knew what it needed to do to not be dispelled, right? I mean, we kind of already saw the power of the stone back whenever Kel used it to help himself. And so the fact that we saw it here kind of like live in front of you doing its own thing, like that was really scary. But back to what you guys said about Lila and like her being able to use a stone, I don't think it has to do anything with Lila. I think it just has to go back to what I just said about the stone. Like that's just so powerful that anybody can wield it, which makes it even more dangerous because
Yeah.
even people from Grey London who are not supposed to have any magical capabilities can actually wield it themselves as well without really any training or any way of knowing how to use and control it, because here we see what happens with the sword after.
I freaking love that part. I'm going to hold on to it for now. But you answer part of my question that I was going to ask because it was like, is it the fact that Lila could be special or, because she's from Grey London, wouldn't think so, right? Or is it because the black stone, it's just in its nature that anyone can use it because it seemed like maybe it's like an irid, it's just magic itself,
Yeah.
right? And Kel, who's also pretty transfixed by the stone, and feels that draw to use it. It's
Mhm.
almost like I picture the Horcruxes
Yeah.
whispering in Harry and Hermione's
Oh my
and
God,
Ron's
yeah.
head, like, don't destroy me, use me. And that's what I picture the stone, almost like, the ring of power as well. Just that temptation always being there. And then transitioning that into the next part where, Lila ends up leaving Lila, kind of tricks her and, puts her arm in the wall using the stone to where she can't get out. She has to hack her way out. That keeps her busy, but by the time she gets finished with that, Kel's already gone. And so she just throws the, magically created sword out the window and has a life of its own because it drew someone else out to it. And that, what his character's name is Booth,
Yeah.
pretty much a drunk, walking in on the street and he sees this pretty magic item and picks it up, and that was a mistake because it actually kills him. But when he stabs himself with it, it kind of infects him, and we get a callback to seeing the black under the veins, right? That's a fairly symbolic image that keeps on making its way back. So that's foreshadowing something. What do y'all think?
So here's why I think there's something different about Lila, because after Kel leaves, he leaves with the stone and like traps her on the wall, and she's able to hack her way out, but he left the sword that she created for herself. And she picks it up and like she feels something like some kind of buzz or like power source coming from the sword, and she remembers him saying that the stone is bad magic, and she threw it out the window. And Booth later on, after feeling the same weird power from the sword, tried to let go of the sword but was not able to. So I think there's something different about Lila. And then something else that I wrote in my notes is that the first thing that Kell noticed when he came to in her room, and she had him tied up, instead of saying like, "Where's the stone?" or "Untie me," he noticed that one of her eyes is darker than the other, and he said, "Why is one of your eyes darker than the other?" That was the first thing he said to her. So I think that has some significance. Like maybe is there a little bit of magic in her blood? I don't know.
Okay, Detective Steph. Yeah, because that's also where my line of thinking went, and I honestly can't remember. So it's like I'm conjecturing with you. I was leaning towards that direction as well because we've talked about the items that she has stolen from other people. And one of them,
Yeah.
being the trinket with the initials on it, and the other being the map to nowhere that she knows, right? And so we assumed in our previous episode that may have been Black London.
Mm-hmm.
And these are both items that we suspect Kell may have traded for trinkets of his own that he wasn't supposed to be transferring between different Londons. And so if that is the case, if she is magical on some level, maybe she's drawn to these items that she steals, right? And that's how she just ends up with them. Not necessarily that it's random, but quite literally, like she's drawn to it and doesn't even register why.
So what I was starting to think, and like this may not be correct because some of what was already written in the book about Antari is that the lineage of Antari seems to be random. Like
Right.
there's no like family lineage of Antari with like several generations or anything like that. It just seems to randomly choose someone to be Antari. When the eye thing came up for Lila, I was wondering like maybe does she have like someone down the line, like an ancestor that was Antari or something because of the eye thing? And like a tell of being Antari is that one of their eyes is completely black, like even the whites of your eye. So
Or it could be
anyway,
that it's not as prominent because she is from Grey London and Grey London is so dull.
yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
That's
good
a
point.
good, yeah.
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
mean,
Because
like,
something that they mentioned was that like it's random and like it seems like in the past when there was more I guess traveling between the worlds that Antari would pop up in any of the worlds. So
right.
so yeah, that I could
Because
see
I
that
mean,
being
because
the
whenever they
case.
describe Holland, they describe him as washed out, like the people
Right.
from White
Yeah.
London are. And when they describe Kill, like he's very vibrant and he kind of stands out like Red London people do. And so it would
Oh
kind of go to
yeah.
show that like somebody like Lila, who maybe, things are very dull and there's no magic, like she's not going to be able to stand out as far as that magical being goes.
That's a great call out.
Yeah.
And she also doesn't have anybody to show her how to do these things or how to use her
Right.
blood magic. I mean, so
She
that
was
could
also
be
drawn
it.
to the stone's throw, right? Like
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She keeps
Yeah.
she
She has that
keeps
connection with
navigating back
Booth.
to it.
Or
Yeah.
not Booth. Baron.
barren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before you said that, I had another thought. So I don't want to say too much because this touches on something that happens in the last part of our discussion today. So I'll be sure to bring it back. But there's something that happens at the very end that I think connects back to Lila and why she's affected differently than Kel by the stone. But like I said, I'll bring it up later. I just wanted to make sure I touched on that because I think that there is some significance to Lila. But I don't now I'm thinking it is because she might be on Tari, but before you even said that I was thinking about something else.
So the next part kind of transitions into horror movie territory
Yeah.
because Colin, oh my God, Holland.
Who?
Sorry. Where
I
did
don't even know
Colin
where
come
Colin came
from?
from. I have no idea. I've never even dated a Colin. So
Enter a new character.
anyway,
Sorry.
Holland makes his way back on the scene, and I truly do see him walking in like with the Michael Myers theme song going in the background, and he traces his way to Delilah because he can still sense Kel's magic. And so he's been tracking him down. He needs him for some reason, and he uses Lila to bring Kell out, and he's not very kind about it.
When I was writing this, I was like, fucking Holland, man. And it made me laugh because, like, when we were discussing Onyx Storm, it was either like fucking Jack or who was the other? Oh, fucking Daddy Atos. I was like, here we go with the people that we hate the most. Like, I knew fucking Holland was trouble from the beginning. And Honestly, like just because he's an Antari, like we think of Kel, we think of Antari, we think maybe like good person, right? Because you're like an ambassador, you're a traveler, so you think they're good people. But no, that's not the case with Holland. He's not a good person. It doesn't mean anything that he's an Antari. Especially with the fact that he's from White London. I was really pissed with the section. Like, he didn't have to do all of that to Lila. But then you think back, like, he tried to fight for the throne. So it goes to show just how
Yeah.
ruthless he is, right? So
Yeah.
the one thing I did like really take away from this that I really loved was Lila. She kind of has given up on people, I think, right? Especially being a thief and having really no one to kind of lean on. And so she's kind of given up on people really being there for her. And so when I was reading this and she was being tortured by fucking Holland and she was like, he's not going to come for me. Like, Hell's not going to come for me.
Yeah.
And then he goes for her and she just was in awe. She was like, I can't believe he actually came back for me. And so I love that she kind of believed in humankind again a little bit after that. So here, I don't find her as annoying. I'm like, okay, I get you, girl. I get you why you can't trust people and why, this was such a big moment for her.
Yeah, so I'm obviously Team Lila all the way, so I'm loving her. And I thought it was really clever of her. She's probably because she's a pickpocket, she's very observant, and she immediately knew Holland was not there to be her friend. And she noticed that he has like this faded appearance, which is a tell of White London. Like, she doesn't know anything about White London or know this specifically about White London, but she just instantly knew like this is bad news. I need to get out of this situation. And yeah, Jen, to your point, she didn't think Kel was going to come back to her because they really don't have a reason to be friends at this point. But as soon as he did come back for her and saved her from Holland, I think like another character trait that I like about Lila, and it's starting to show here, is that she is fiercely loyal. And so because Kel came back for her, she then returns the favor shortly after. So I just love that about her. Even though she's had a hard life, like she's a good friend to have in your corner.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Like, once you show her and give her an opportunity of why she should be loyal to you, she's going to take it and run with it. Like,
Yeah.
I totally believe that. And I think that's probably why she's loyal to Baron, right? Because he showed her kindness, right? You need a
Right.
place to stay. I got you.
Hmm.
So, yeah, she values that kind of justice system. And we do see that pay off for Kell later because we get this horrific experience because Holland is, Michael Myers in this scene where he's torturing or hurting Lila to bring Kell to him to trap him. And it really is a gloves come off kind of situation when Kell's like, you need to let her go and we're going to sort this out. Like, why are you doing this? And not really much of an opportunity for conversation because Holland starts to go right in. And it's kind of gross. Like, I was reading this and it made me feel like, speaking of the Hunger Games, the second one where it rains
Oh my
blood
gosh.
Oh, yeah.
in one of the
Yes.
sections of the arena. I was like, oh,
No,
like
yeah,
that's
exactly.
what made me think of this, or that's what this made me think of. So what did it make y'all think of? What'd y'all think?
Yeah, no, like what you said before, horror story scene here. Okay, so like, okay, now we have Holland and Kel kind of duking it out for the stone. And Kel has it, but then Holland gets it from him pretty quickly. And then he uses it he like sends smoke up his nostrils, and then that causes Kel to start bleeding out. And as we know, Antari have blood magic, so their power comes from their blood. So that means Kel's power is draining out of him, and it's just not stopping. And this guy's about to die. So yeah, horror film scene right here. It was just gross.
I was really worried, honestly. Like, remember I was reading this. I don't remember what night I was reading it, but it was at night and I had to get off the couch. Like, I was really worried. I love Kel. So I was like off the
Yeah.
couch, pacing my living room. What is gonna happen? I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, like, he's like bleeding out. I mean, he's losing his magic. He's trying to use the stone to help him and it's not working. Like, it just kind of made it seem like there was no hope for him. And then I went back and like I kept thinking, I'm like, I thought Kel was supposed to be like this powerful guy. Like, literally in the first episode, we talked about just how powerful he was with his show of magic, right? He can control all of the elements. And so I thought this is a powerful guy, but then when you face off against Holland, like, he is clearly no match for him. And like, that really worries me with like how the rest of the book will go, because if Holland is really this powerful, what's going to happen? They're just going to keep going back and forth like this. And then I kept wondering too, does this confirm what we thought, right? Like, is this what that Holland was the one that set him up because he's the one after the stone? So does this confirm that Holland was the one that set him up, or did Holland get a feel for that strange magic and go after it, right? So like, I'm kind of wondering whether it was one or the other. Did he set him up and now he's just there to pick up the reward of what he was trying to set up for, or did he sense it and was like, oh, there's some dark power, like let me go after that, because obviously he still wants to be the more powerful one in White London. And when he was talking to Kell, it made it sound like he wasn't really afraid of the twins, like if he's letting them run him that way. And that was another
I'm glad
thing.
you mentioned that.
Yeah, that was another thing that really worried me, because he was like, oh, the Dane twins, like whatever, I let them control me, I let them do this, like almost like to give him that sense of power, I guess, just to prove to himself that he's even more powerful, like letting them kind of take the throne, but kind of quietly working his way towards overpowering them. And I think getting the Blackstone is one way to do that, because I don't think he's getting it for the twins anymore. Like that's what I originally thought. I think he really is just getting it for himself.
Well, I didn't really get the sense that he was allowing the Dane twins to have this control over him. So during that interaction when they're fighting over the stone, Kell tries to reason with Holland and say, hey, you can use the stone to break the binding spell that's on you that the Dane twins are using to control you. And then Holland actually like removes the little clasp, the silver clasp that Kell thought was whatever was holding that spell. And he shows him that he's actually using that to cover up a mark that he has on his skin underneath it. And that is actually what the spell is. He says it's a soul spell and it's unbreakable. So even the stone wouldn't be able to break this spell that the Dane twins put on him. And so I didn't really get the sense that he did that, like he allowed it to happen. I do think that they overpowered him in this struggle for the throne in White London, and he just lost. And now he's basically a slave to them forever, bound to them forever.
Yeah, because I think this section begs the question of, if the stone was in White London, why is Holland going after it?
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's more machinations in the background that are happening that we just don't know.
Right.
Because how is Holland involved in this? Is he, I guess he's seeking it. I guess he still needs the stone, right? Because why else would he be there to
Right.
do something to the twins, right? To take control somehow. I don't know. We don't know what his plan is, but we know that there's something, and that he and the twins are not in on it together. Like he's still trying or finding a way to undermine their magical hold on him. So we'll see what happens. And obviously that might tie in the Red Royals, because, Holland was there visiting. Holland was visiting Rye. And so there could be, are they really working together in cahoots? And maybe they're trying to overthrow White London, the Dane twins, right? Like we just don't know. But thankfully, we don't have to think about it too hard, because Lila has her hero moment and bursts in to save the day.
Yeah, she came out of nowhere with this. Like Jen was saying before, like Kell was on the brink of death, I think, at this point. Like he is bleeding out on the street, and Holland's got the stone, and like there's no hope. But then, Lila comes in. She hits him over the head and knocks him out. And then did she use the stone again to reverse the spell that was causing him to bleed out?
I think it was Kell, like once he saw that he went down, I think he used a stone to release himself from whatever was happening.
Okay.
They use the stone to kind of ensnare Holland.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So they like trap him and like hold him down on the street where he fell out
Yeah.
to get some time to get away from him.
And I mean, this is the moment that you're talking about, like, she valued the fact that he went back for her. So, she wanted to do the same for him. And I love that she did it without magic too. Like here, she was able to take Holland down by just like smacking him on the head, because obviously that knocked him unconscious, and that took the release that he had on the Black Stone, which had it over Kell, and like momentarily released Kell enough to like get him to get up and get away with Lila. And so I did like the part where she was just like, why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? Why'd you come back for me? She would not let that go. She just
Right.
really wanted to know why somebody would go back for her. And that just made me feel for her. Like, how
Right.
alone and how broken must you be to the point where you don't believe that anyone would be there for you? Like that you wouldn't believe that people are still that kind, you know? Like how many times did somebody have to let you down and disappoint you to get to that point where it's like, well, why would he come back for me? Like I'm nothing, right? And so that just made me really sad and made me really
Yeah.
feel for Lila in that moment. I was like, oh, well, there you go.
I think that's why this moment has such a big payoff, right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
I even wrote it in my notes. I was like, oh, she had her Neville Longbottom moment, right? Where like imagine if you will, you're in Hogwarts Castle on the day of the Battle of Hogwarts, and you see Nagini coming in for Ron and Hermione, and Neville's there to save the day to slash off Nagini's
Yeah.
head. This was that moment for
Badass.
her, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I just love you. Good
Yeah.
job. And so that leads into the next part because it really shows some character development here for her because I think as she's taking care of Kell, she's still cautious, don't get me wrong. She's still that scrappy, pirate without a ship. But we also see a different kind of softer side of Lila. And I want your thoughts on how you felt about her while she's trying to, take care of Kell.
Well, I kind of feel like we talked about it already. Like I said, I wrote down a quote that I wanted to mention, and it said, "She hadn't lived this long and stayed this free by stopping to help every fool who got himself into trouble. It was all she could do to keep herself out of trouble, and whatever else Holland was, he was clearly trouble, but Kell had come back." And so, like I mentioned earlier, she had pretty much given up on people altogether. And I think that, she thought that she only had to rely on herself from now on, really. And so I love that she went back to help someone, even though she didn't really have to. She kind of went against her instincts here because, she was, like she said, she hadn't survived this long if she would have helped every single person that she encountered. And so I love that she did that for Kell. And I love the duo now. Like in the beginning, whenever she had trapped him and she was kind of keeping the stone away from him, like to me that was just really annoying. But like I love this now. Like I love the tit for tat, he helped her, she helps him kind of thing.
Now they're in this together for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I mentioned before, like I get the sense that like once she has become your friend, like she's in your corner to the end. So yeah, I'm enjoying that dynamic with them.
Well, that tit for tat dynamic seems to follow in this next part. This is part 8 called The Arrangement. And Kell is healing and he wakes up and he's in Lila's bed again, right? This is the second time.
Yeah, that he comes to, and he's this time not tied up though. So
Yes,
Thankfully.
this time he's
progress.
not tied up. Um, and like I said, we do get a softer side of Lila here, a definitely more inquisitive side because now she's actually been exposed to magic and he's here kind of like a captive audience. And so she's going to get the most out of her time with him. Up until this point, we've really gotten kind of a lot of vague and ambiguous information about the world building and the lore around the four Londons and the magic system and everything like that. But in this chapter, we really do kind of get some answers, specifically around Black London.
Yeah, so when he wakes up, he obviously asks for the stone right away, and she's like, "Don't worry, it's safe." But she won't tell him where it is because, again, she's always, trying to stay one step ahead, being that, scrappy girl that she is. So they start talking about like what the stone is, what it means, and the havoc that it could wreak on all of the Londons, if they don't get rid of it. And so Kell, while they're talking, says, "I think the only way we can get rid of it, because we need to get rid of it, is to take it back to Black London." And then Lila asked him the question I was asking is like, why don't you just go to Black London right now? And then he explains, well, you can't just go to Black London. You have to go through all the Londons to get to it. So right now they're in Grey London. To get to Black London, they would have to travel to Red London, then to White London, and then to Black London. And as we know, for whatever reason, someone in White London was the one who gave the stone to Kell. And then he has already been pursued in Red London for the stone. So we don't know what they're going to run into on this journey through the Londons to get this stone back into Black London. So we are in for a ride.
Yeah, I was honestly really glad that it finally got a little bit explained, like kind of how the portals work, right? It's like you have to go from here to here to here to here to get to it. And it also kind of like explains why White London was kind of hit the hardest because they're the ones right next to Black London when it came to separating
Right.
the worlds. And so I could see why they're the ones that are power hungry, and I could see why the red one is thriving, kind of kept all the good for themselves and left nothing for Gray London. So like I do like that visual. Like to me, I'm visualizing a tunnel, right? Like a portal between all these like Londons, right? And so didn't they also describe that they're not 100% sure what they're going to find in Black London because the magic
Yeah.
there like ate up all of the magic or all of the
Right.
people there, right?
The whole world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so like it like ate it
That's
up, like
scary.
it
Yeah.
absorbed all of the human life there. And it kind of makes sense as to what happens in these next few chapters or these next few parts in our discussion today, because we'll get more of that, right? We'll get more of that later. But like when he was saying that, I was like, shit, then what does that mean for the other Londons if that gets leaked in? And my other question is, who got that stone? Like, who kept that stone? And how has it been hidden for so long without infecting other people already? If the magic in Black London is so strong that it killed everybody there because it just absorbed everyone's life, then what's going to happen? And who brought it over? Who survived that? You know? So,
And what are they going to face when they get there?
and that's exactly what
Like,
Lila said
what's
too. She
left?
was like, what's left? Who's going to be there? And Kel is pretty much already thinking in his head that he's not going to survive this trip.
Right.
He knows
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
minute he steps into Black London, he's probably done for. And
Yeah.
so that also goes to show just how strong the magic is there, because he's already accepting his fate here. He's like, I'm
Right.
gonna die. I mean, everybody else died. Of
But I
course,
got
I'm
to
gonna
do
die.
this.
Yeah, but I got to do this because then I have to save everybody else. Because if I leave it here, then it's just gonna keep infecting everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, we're obviously getting to some very interesting chapters here. But before we get there, there are just a few like confirmations that we have to get from Kell and Lila together. One, that Lila's coming in. She's pretty much insisting. She was like, "Oh no, no, I'm coming with you." Like that's a thing. So I'll be there and see you there. So they do that, and then as a cheeky little, I guess she's just that excited to go. She gives Kel a little smooch right before they pass through because Kel's finally like, fine, I guess. Like, yes, you can come, and agrees to let her go. And then they're about to step through, and right before they step through the portal to Red London, yeah, she just lays one on him and gives him a nice kiss.
Yeah. So okay, I don't think this is like going in a romantic direction yet, but I could see it developing into that. Obviously, Kel wasn't thinking about Lila in that way. He's just thinking about we need to get the stone to Black London. And she kind of used the stone against him to force him to allow her to go on this journey with him because she was like, "Well, I'm going to go. And if you don't let me go, then I'm not going to give you the stone," because he doesn't know where it is right now. And honestly, Kel could have probably argued back a little bit more and maybe used some of his magic to just get the stone from her. But I think he was scared of doing this mission alone. So he was probably happy to have a companion on this mission that seemed to accept the potential fate that they might be facing in once they do get to Black London. So I think he was happy to just have somebody by his side to do this. So I don't think he was thinking about like, oh, and then maybe we might, develop a thing. But Lila was just, I think, excited to finally get her adventure that she's been seeking. And so, like celebrate that with a kiss.
Yeah, I got the annoying little sister vibe here.
Okay.
But I go back to like what I said earlier in the beginning, right? Where I thought that her ignoring Kel's warnings about how powerful this magic is and her just playing with the magic anyways. I mean, look what happened. She made this freaking and look what happened. Like it already infected someone, like because she was fucking around with it. Like, why are you doing that after somebody already told you not to do that? And so this to me goes back to her being annoying again. Okay, she had her hero moment, so happy for her, so glad for her, but now we're back to, nope, I'm gonna go, I don't care what you say, like ignoring all the warnings again. To me, she's not taking this mission as serious as she should, and to me that's frustrating. I mean, obviously we see down, a few more chapters or a few more sections that I'm kind of glad she was there because of what happens later. But at this moment, when I'm reading it, before we even get to that part, I'm like, again, he is trying to save you. He's trying to warn you, and you're just ignoring it all because you want an adventure.
I think you're totally right. And I think that kind of supports our argument that, she is of magical blood. Like she is very well could be Antari, right? Maybe the Grey London's Antari. Maybe Grey London's magic is starting to wake up, right? Like that's why this whole event is coming about. But yeah, maybe that's why she craves adventure. It is part of her being. Maybe that's why she craves it, because deep down a fiber of her being knows that she's not meant for Grey London alone. Like she's meant to see things.
She's meant to be a traveler.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
Quite literally.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
All right, so that does lead us to this ending part of part 8, and it's a sad moment because we lose a character here, and a good one. Lila and Kell they have now entered Red London, and while that's happening, Holland is still in Grey London, and he eventually does, break the spell on however Lila and Kell were keeping him pinned down, and he makes his way back to the Stone's Throw. He's rummaging in Lila's room, and Baron wakes up to hear it, and he's like, those are not Lila's footsteps. I recognize her footsteps, and that is not her. So he's already suspicious. He walks in and he sees Holland, and again, cue the Michael Myers music, right? I feel it's going to become like this funny soundbite in my head now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not having it. He's like, I need you to tell me where she is. And he's like, they're gone. And he's like, that's not the answer I was looking for. And he ends up killing him. So we lose Baron.
And like, he didn't need to do that, is the thing.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
Baron had no idea where she was at, and so there was no need to kill him. But he did anyway. So this just shows how like evil and ruthless and like will stop at nothing Holland is.
Yeah, I mean, this is just showing his true colors, honestly. Like, going back to, he kind of gave off that, like, submissive vibe when he was in White London, taking orders from the twins. But, like, here by himself, you're really seeing his true colors and just how ruthless and how much of a killer he is. And so, honestly, like, I think this is just going to continue. Like, he's just going to keep killing in his search for the Black Stone, and he's not going to stop at anything for that. But yeah, I mean, this literally, Lila has nobody. And he kills the last person that meant something to her. That to me was just, I was pretty pissed at this, like, pretty upset.
And it was sad because, like, right before Lila and Kell leave, Kell asks if she wanted to say goodbye to Baron because he noticed that they have some sort of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And she said no, but she left him her silver watch that is like one of her most prized possessions. So, like, obviously that shows that, this guy meant something to her and like was probably the only person that she had left in this world at all. So, like that's basically taking everything from her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a real like mood switch, like that I didn't want to go into going into the next chapter. I'm like, oh, that was really sad. And then automatically the mood shifts to like happy festival time.
Yeah.
Because we're in Red London and it's Prince Rye's birthday festivities that are going on, and it's this whole big bash, and Lila's walking around. She and Kell went through the magic portal together to get to Red London, but ultimately when they get there they have separated, so they are not in the same place. We see Kell kind of freak out, like, man, where is she, where did she go? And then Lila's over here living her best life in the party, and she's like, all right, I can get used to this. Look at all these marks that I have to pickpocket. Who can I steal from first? And she doesn't make a very smart move. And again, that's how Kell and her kind of bump into each other again through theft, the great bonding. But they do find each other because Lila has stolen from the wrong person, and there's a big uproar, and that's how Kell finds her. He's like, I can't leave you alone for 5 minutes.
Oh, that's right, because it was warded, right? Like, now we're in Red London with magic, and so they ward off thieves. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, yes. She tried to steal from a cart that was warded, and so she couldn't, and she almost got arrested, but then Kel found her at the exact right moment, and because he's royal, he was able to like um, push them off. But something I noticed about this, so it's Rye's birthday, and so there's a parade going on, and the royals are like waving to all the residents of Red London in the parade. But I noticed that Rye, for some reason, just noticed Lila and stared her down in the crowd. And I'm thinking this is probably a big crowd. Like, what caused him to like notice her? And so, since we've been talking about this, how potentially she might be Antari from Grey London, like, was he drawn to that about her? I don't know.
I thought it was more because she was wearing Kel's coat. So remember,
That's right. I
yeah,
forgot she was
so
wearing the
he
coat.
gives, because
Okay.
like Kel gives her his coat and she gives him a handkerchief. And
Yes.
so
Okay, that's
I
right.
thought that maybe he zeroed in on her because like she's wearing his
Because of the
coat.
coat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
No,
was
you're
like,
right.
whoa, like, why is that person wearing his coat? Especially after
Hmm.
he just told Kel he needs to stop transferring things between the worlds. And he was like, oh, here's this girl that stands out that shouldn't be here wearing Kel's coat. Like, why is she
Right.
here and why did he transfer her here? And so, like, I think that maybe, like, what am I thinking? Sounded alarms in his head, right? He's like, he's
Yeah.
doing it again, but now he's transferring people. So that's what I thought when
And
I saw
also,
that
Kel's
scene.
supposed to be in the parade with him, like with the whole royal
Oh,
family,
that's
and he's
right. Yeah.
missing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, that makes a lot
Yeah.
more
So yeah,
sense. I thought he
he's
just like
considered.
randomly noticed her.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I thought so too at first, and then we had this conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I had forgotten that she was wearing the coat,
Hmm.
and I was like, well,
Right.
maybe that's also could be foreshadowing that Rye has more magical ability than he even knows, and maybe
Okay.
like he did zone in on her in a magical way. Like, you're not from here, but the coat makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. So we get to the point in the story where the plan has to be, because we did learn about the track of Londons, right? There you have Grey London, then you have to go to Red London, then White London, and then that's how you can go to Black London. But to get to each one, you have to have a token from that place that you're going to travel to. And to do that, Kel's thinking to himself, I have tokens. They're just in my room in the Ruby Fields, which in the last episode I said that the Ruby Fields was the tavern there, and it's not. It's just an inn.
Okay.
So the tavern in the Red London, I think, is like the Setting Sun or something like that.
Okay. I thought they were the
Yeah.
same. Okay.
Yeah, I did too, but they are not. So the Ruby Fields is an inn,
Hmm.
and he goes to the Ruby Fields because that's where his warded room is, and he has White London trinkets because he has to get there before he can go to Black London. But to his dismay, he sees that the Ruby Field has been burned down to a crisp, and it has been magically burned down because the fire did not extend beyond the actual perimeter of the inn itself. It is a perfectly burned out section where the inn used to be. And, cue Michael Myers Halloween music because in walks Holland again. We just can't get away from this guy. So, uh, Kell uses the stone to conceal them because he can hear and sense Holland approaching. Because just like Holland can trace Kell's magic, Kell can do the same with Holland. And so he gets the sense that Holland is coming and we need to hide. So he uses the black stone to conceal both him and Lila. This is a really intense section just because I was like it didn't work.
Right.
Like, Kell was really outmatched even when he had the stone at first, when he was talking to Holland the first time around. Like, I can only imagine when he's still kind of recovering how that might go the second time around. So what did y'all think?
Yeah, I was really nervous, honestly. Like, as soon as he got there, because, like I said, I knew he wasn't going to let up. I knew he was going to just keep going until he got what he wanted. And so I was nervous for him the first time they faced off. And so I was even more nervous now, considering that Lila was also there and she doesn't have any magic. And like you said, he's still recovering. So it's not like he has his full abilities kind of back. The only thing that's really there to help him is the black stone. But he was able to use it to like fully conceal himself. Yes, Holland can still pick up on his magic, but he had absolutely no idea where he was standing or where he was at or where he needed to strike. And he even tried to use some of the ashes to like kind of draw them out because, they could probably kind of see the silhouette of where they're hiding. And even that flew right through him. And so that
So crazy.
right, like that itself, I was just
That
like,
was really cool.
holy shit, the magic can completely conceal you even through that itself. Like that
Mhm.
just, I mean, again, it's just scary kind of how powerful this one tiny stone is. Can you imagine when you get more of that, you know?
Yeah. So that whole scene was really tense, obviously, because they're hoping that Holland doesn't suss out where they're at. They're right in front of each other. As you're reading, you can kind of tell they're not that far away. And there's nowhere for them to run if he does find out that they're right in front of him because they're in an alley that's like a dead end. And Holland's at the end of it. And then he does this clever thing with the ashes. And like I got chills when Kel says he's like tensing up because he's like, oh, he's gonna see our silhouettes.
Mhm.
And then it goes right through them. And I got chills and I'm like, oh my gosh, this stone can outsmart an Antari who's
Mhm.
like ruthless and cruel.
Mhm.
That's scary. And so he finally gives up because he can sense them, but he has no idea if they're actually there. Maybe it's just they're scent of them and they've gone somewhere else, but he has no way of knowing. But while this is going on, he's taunting them too.
Yes.
And he reveals that because he knows that Lila's with him, he reveals that he killed Baron in Grey London. And that was probably to try to get her to reveal herself and come at him.
Yes.
But
Yep.
she, like had to like help her keep herself together. And she did. She didn't like lunge at him or anything. Just again, another moment where he's showing how cruel and ruthless he is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I I'm wondering, well, I guess it's obvious, but I still want to bring it up. Like, he burned down Ruby Fields because he knew that those were all
Yeah.
Kel's trinkets, right? But I
Yeah.
thought they were warded against people.
He's just that powerful, I think.
Okay, because I was like, how did he know about his trinkets? How did he know that that's what he would need to travel back? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. How does he know?
Like how did he
Well, I
knew
think
that
he's
he?
probably been tailing him, right? And I
Yeah.
think it's probably common practice that Antari just bring back things from other Londons that they're not supposed to, because how would you not be able to do that? I would be so tempted,
I
right?
know. Yeah.
Just to mix and match things, right? And so he probably is like, if he's anything like me, yeah, like he's gonna do the same thing. And he probably just trailed him one night and say, oh, he has this place that he can live in a castle, and yet he's choosing to go elsewhere. That's got to be where he's hiding these things.
Well, I guess too,
Sure.
like he's also been to Red London before without Kel even knowing, right? So
Right.
you're
Right.
probably
Yeah.
right that he has been trailing him because that was my initial thought too. I was like, well, why would he burn down Ruby Fields? Did he know that Kel really needed the trinkets? Because that's probably what he thought he was going to do was take it back to Black London. So I was really upset about that too because I'm like, there goes his whole collection. I mean, everything
Yeah.
that he, that he wasn't supposed to do, like at least all the evidence is gone.
Yeah, but he needs it now to get this stone back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's scary.
All right, so we get to the Ruby Fields and it's burned down. That is Kel's source to have a trinket, or to have a token rather, to get to White London. And he admits to Lila, he's like, well, crap, we're actually in a pickle because I have a couple of other tokens in from White London here. One is with the king, but I don't want to draw suspicion. And so the other one is, with this other guy, this pawn shop guy named Fletcher. So I'm going to have to go there. Well, the thing with that is that it would be all fine and dandy if Kell hadn't made a fool out of Fletcher in the past, playing their game of Sanct, right? Which is poker, but in Red London. And it's a poker in Red London, which means that there's magic involved. Basically, that you can win anyway. Like if you need to glamour or magic the cards in such a way where someone believes that they have a winning hand, but then it's just revealed at the end that they actually don't have a winning hand, your opponent has the winning hand. Yeah, that might make someone a little salty, and it just so happens that is what happened between Kell and Fletcher. He says something
Yeah, I
parting
think he
ways
did
Yeah.
with
say that.
Fletcher.
Yeah.
He
To
says
Fletcher.
like no hard feelings or something, and it
Yeah.
just kind of rubs salt in the wound that Fletcher did not appreciate. And so we see how that manifests in this meeting. But before we get to that, what did y'all think of this interaction, like this mission that Kell has to go on to? This is kind of where my ears perked up. I was like, oh, we have a mission. We actually have a direction on where we're going. All right, so let's see what happens, because as I figured out in the past, I am a plot-driven reader, and so I love a good plot. And this is where plot actually became visible to me. Like
Well,
we
like
have an objective and we need to achieve it.
Right. For me, when they were in the chapter of the section where they talk about why Fletcher has this rook from White London that was from Kell and how that happened, we get the sense that this guy Fletcher is a seedy person. So it's not just
Yes.
that he has a grudge against Kell, like he could be dangerous.
Yes.
And so, like, it's kind of upping the ante a little bit more that now they have to go to this other seedy character to get the White Rook from him so that they can get to White London. So that's introducing some more danger here. And then it's also kind of showcasing, like, a little bit more of Kell's sketchy past. Like, why was he playing Saint with this guy who seems to be dangerous, in the past? And like, he was playing with trinkets from other worlds, which he's not supposed to have or transfer between the worlds. So yeah, that's again just
Which is how
upping the
Fletcher has the
stakes.
White Rook. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
So, do you think that kind of shows Kell's like arrogance a little bit? Maybe like underestimating people a little too much? I mean, I feel like he has definitely underestimated Holland a lot. Even earlier when like they had their first showdown and he tried to like reason with him, like, hey, we're both on Tari, like, what's going on? And he was just like, you and I may be the same, but you and I may both be on Tari, but we're definitely not the same. And so, like, I kind of feel like maybe he's been a little too arrogant because he knows he's powerful, but he's underestimating people when he shouldn't be underestimating people. So that's kind of what I got from this whole interaction with this Fletcher guy. I'm like, kind of what you were saying, Steph, like showing that he's been kind of playing a dangerous game with like shady people. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Why are you playing with fire? And so I think to me, just kind of shows a little bit of his arrogance and like, he shouldn't be doing that. And he doesn't think that there's going to be any consequences that come out of it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it
Well,
in this section, like while they're going to Fletcher's pawn shop, that Lila finds out from Kel that he does these dealings that are illegal, and then she points out like
well,
his hypocrisy basically
Yeah.
yeah.
in judging her for being a pickpocket. And she points out, well, like I steal out of necessity because I don't have anything else,
Yeah.
and you are royal and you have everything that you could possibly need. So, like, and she said something like, people steal for one of two reasons, either out of need or for control. And so, yeah, it's, a little bit of arrogance from coming from Kel because he doesn't need to do this stuff. He doesn't need to put himself in this kind of danger, but he does. Why? Because he thinks he can get away with it. Well, now,
Yeah.
what is it called? The chickens are coming to roost.
Well, I think too that it really creates a perfect example of how Kell is a perfect representative for Red London and Holland is a perfect representative of White London, right? Because
Mhm.
Red London, there is a sense of arrogance just because they haven't needed anything.
That's
Like they
true.
don't want for
Yeah,
anything.
Yeah.
they're
And
thriving.
even Kell admits that, right? Like Red London is in a good situation because they chose to be in a good situation. They chose to cut themselves off of the reach of White London and Black London. And so
Right.
because Red London made that decision, White London was put in the position that it's in now,
Yeah.
where it's starving for magic. And it appears that Holland makes a lot of his decisions out of desperation
Yeah.
and need. It kind of echoing what Lila says, right? Like this is done out of need, but Holland extends that a little bit more, that it's not only out of need but out of desire for power,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that starving desperation. So yeah, I think that what we're talking about here just draws a perfect line of those parallels.
Well, with Lila in Grey London as well. She wants
Yeah.
more. She wants more adventure. She's tired of her life
She
of
has
standing
nothing.
still, right? Like she's standing
Yeah.
still. Grey London is dull, like it has no magic, nothing's really happening. Even the king is dying, like there's just nothing going on there. And so, she kind of represents that as well.
All right. So just that does bring us into part 10, which I thought was the most exciting part that we've
Yeah.
read.
Oh my God.
And because of that, there are a lot of different moving parts in this section, kind of very reminiscent of the last part in our first section that we read, where it was in tandem between Lila and Kell, and they automatically met at the end of it. It kind of worked out really well here too, because that's how this happens as well. But we also get a callback to, yeah, it has to be. Isn't Edward Tuttle the enthusiast that
Yeah.
is from the beginning?
Mhm.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah.
Because he went back to the Ruby Inn, or he went back to the tavern or whatever, waiting for
The
Kell.
stone's throw.
Yeah.
Waiting for Kell,
Yeah.
but so he comes across Booth.
Yeah.
All right, so we get a flashback to a character that we've come across before. This is the enthusiast that Kell came across that he wasn't a huge fan of. And he comes back to the stone's throw to find Kell because Kell said, give me a month's time and I'll be here waiting for you if you're really serious. And so true to his word, he came back to see, but he's disappointed because the stone's throw has been boarded up and it's closed. And he's not aware, at least, that Baron has been killed. But just when he's doing that and he's making his way there, he hears this commotion with the carriage. And we also get the sense, or we learn that Booth, which was the man that was stabbed in the sword that Lila created using the black stone, is desiccating. Like he's becoming not a person anymore, and the magic is corrupting him, and his skin kind of looks ashy, like it's falling off in little patches. And Booth is drawn to the stone's throw just because, like, that's where magic has been. That's where Kell visits often, and so that's where he's drawn to. And so he's making his way there, but he doesn't see a carriage. The carriage doesn't see him. Hits him, and Ned hears this. The enthusiast hears this, goes to investigate, doesn't see anything, just sees like some ash in the shape of a human body. But that's where we are with that. What did y'all think of that section? That was a really interesting way to start this chapter.
So I thought that there was a little part in that section where he, because that enthusiast is there for magic, right? He wants magic. And so he runs into literally the most powerful magic and he's not even aware. And so I thought that was kind of funny that they did that. Because it's like true. The carriage ran over Booth and he desiccated, right? And so it's like he was so close to running into something that he's been wanting for a while. Thankfully, though, he avoided that because you don't want that kind of magic. But I thought it was interesting what happened next, though, because doesn't the magic transfer to somebody else? And
I had a question about that situation. So then Ned goes over to the merchant's cart to investigate, and he's like, I didn't see him. I ran him over. Oh my gosh. And then when he looks under the cart, he doesn't find a body. He finds, like Ethan mentioned, a pile of ash in the shape of a human, but it's just ash. And like, I wonder, is it gone now, or did that transfer to Ned?
Well, I don't think
it wasn't really confirmed in that section.
Right. I don't think it transferred to Ned because didn't it jump into a section where it talked about somebody going to like a brothel or something and having sex with somebody?
Isn't
that was in Red London though. So
what
it
I
just
think
cuts off
here,
there.
Yes.
So we don't know.
What I think happens though is that it's world building here, right? Because it's telling you that the magic needs a living host or else it can't move. And so I think had Booth made contact with Ned, I think it would have spread, but it didn't get there in time.
Okay.
And so, then you juxtapose that with the very next section, which I thought was really interesting. And it's one of the assailants that was chasing Kell the first time he gets the stone and has to go to Grey London where they can't chase him.
Right.
And so one of those people still has at least some of their functioning body. It is starting to wither. Mm-hmm. So there is no permanent stay in a host body. But through the inner dialogue that the corrupted magic body is dealing with, it tells us that it needs a living host, and a willing living host is even better because it stays longer. And so that's when we get to, ding, 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 the magic answer to staying longer in a host is sex. Yay!
Yeah, that was so
because
weird.
He does make the corrupted body does make its way to a brothel, and that's where
that's how it transferred to someone else.
Yeah, and that was honestly a really weird section. Like, it was just really weird the way it was being described. Like, like the woman being willing to have sex with this man, right? But then also like accepting the magic that she was feeling as he was like thrusting himself in her, right? And so, sorry, I'm gonna be 10 for a second. I mean, not even 10.
Middle school sex
teenager,
ed.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just giggle when I say sex or thrust. But when I was reading that, she was talking about, or it was talking about like the woman enjoying it and the woman enjoying that feel of magic. And so, like what you're saying, somebody has to be willing to accept it to be able to stay longer. And so she was willing, it transferred to her. And so you're in a freaking brothel now. So that means like whoever
Yeah.
she has sex with is going to go to that
Will
person.
transfer. Oh my
And so
God.
now it's
Yeah.
gonna freaking spread, and I'm like, what? Like now, I mean, and all
Oh my
because
God.
Lila wanted to
Yeah.
fuck around with the stone. Like this is what I'm pissed about, man. Like if she would have just listened, now
Well,
fuck.
this one Kell's doing in Red London.
Well, we don't even know that it's Kell's doing this one. Well, I mean, it is
The
because it
brothel?
wouldn't
Yeah,
have been
'cause
there, period, if it hadn't been chasing Kell, right? But yeah,
That's not his fault. He
this,
didn't know about the stone.
well,
well,
but he
yeah, but
shouldn't
he
have
used it and
put
it,
himself in that position
yeah, yeah.
by transference.
Anyway, like everyone's to blame. Fine.
Yeah.
Just don't come for my girl Lila. It's not all on her.
So it kind of brings us back to Kell and Lila because we go back to them at the Ruby Fields. Holland is now gone and they don't have to conceal themselves anymore. And so he gets them out of that glamour, right? They're visible now, but he doesn't realize that he's still holding the stone. And this is kind of where that one ring comes in from Lord of the Rings, where it's like I pictured almost that he's like just looking at it, transfixed by it, can't let it go. He knows he needs to let it go, but he can't. And even isn't Lila like telling him like put down stone,
Yeah.
like put it
Yeah,
down.
she noticed that it was causing his arm to go black before he even noticed. Like as he's holding it and keeping this concealment spell over them, like his inner dialogue is like he feels like more powerful. It's like almost like I don't know, a riveting energy that he's getting from it. And he's like holding on to this stone. And then Lila notices, like, Kell, you need to let it go. And then he realizes his it's corrupting him. His arm is turning black. And then he has to force himself to let it go. He has to, like, he struggled to do that.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is where I'm glad that, again, I know I said it before, she was being super insistent on going. I was like, but I know that down the road, it really did help Kell out. Like he needed somebody to tell him to let that go because
Right.
he wasn't going to. But I do want to bring up something that happened while we're talking about that section, because I found it very odd, and I was just kind of like, it felt a little contradictory and to me. And so I want to see what you guys thought. So in this section, like, yes, Lila's the one that tells him about the stone, and then they kind of go into a conversation about their first kills. And so, Lila and Kell are talking about their first kill, right? And so this is after, they talk about how this magic is affecting Kell and how he can't seem to let it go. And so Lila mentions that she was 15 when she had her first kill and that it made her feel powerful. And she asked Kell about his first kill, and she said, did you enjoy it? And Kell said, of course not. And Lila says, I did. I mean, the way the body looked when it was over, empty. But the moment I decided to do it, and the moment after that, when the knife bit in and I knew that I'd done it, I felt powerful. So I was like, okay, this confession makes me wonder, why is she not attracted to the stone then if she craves power? Like if she liked killing because it made her feel powerful, then why is she not craving the stone as much as Kell is? Like, but Kell, on the other hand, doesn't seem to like it, but yet he's being called to the stone. But I wanted to bring that up because when I read that, I was like, so she enjoyed killing, she felt powerful, so she likes power. Kell didn't like it. He doesn't want to kill, and he doesn't want the power. But then it kind of goes against like the arrogance comment that I made. So I just feel like there's a lot of contradiction going on.
So let's talk about that a little bit more, because I'm glad you brought it up.
Because
I
now I'm
totally forgot about
intrigued.
this
Yeah.
because so the story that Lila gives about her first kill is that basically her dad sold her to her body to an older man, and the way she got out of it was by killing that man. So then it goes back to how we were talking about why they both steal or do some shady stuff. Lila did that out of necessity. She was in danger at that point. And then Kell's story about his first kill was that when they were younger, Prince Rai got kidnapped by this group they're just not a fan of the royals. And then they were like frantically looking for Prince Rai, and Kell was worried for him, and he was able to create a door that took him to where Prince Rai was being held captive, and he saved him that way. And then he says that Prince Rai actually pardoned them for what they did for kidnapping him. And he didn't really punish them. He said that he understood why they did it, and that was it. But Kell thought otherwise. Again, here's his arrogance. He didn't forgive them. And so he took it upon himself to punish them for what they did, and killed them.
That's right.
So even though he says he didn't like it, I don't know that I believe him.
I guess it all comes down to context, right? So you're right. Like, she did have to do it out of necessity to save herself. And I guess that gave her a sense of power that she could protect herself.
Right. And Kell didn't have to do that. Like, the matter had been settled.
Mm-hmm.
There was to be no punishment against this group. But he was arrogant and decided that he knew better.
Right.
I think this is another parallel that's being drawn to how they both view justification. Because I think the only reason Lila probably enjoyed her kill was because she felt it was justified.
Yeah.
And this is also how Kell sees justification, right? He may not have enjoyed the process of having to do it, but he did find it necessary and justified to do so. Even though the one that it happened to, what Prince Rai said, no, I forgive them, I pardon them. Kell was like, no, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's true. I didn't think of it that way. I literally took that part and just ran with it without looking at the context behind of what each kill meant to each of them. So.
Right.
Yeah. This next part is probably a character that we get introduced to very briefly that I thought was the most intriguing character, which was Fletcher. And he's not a good guy by any means. But I thought he was so compelling as a character, because how talented as a writer do you have to be to just write him in 2 chapters, and yet those chapters are incredibly significant, right? One is just telling you where the White Rook piece is to get to White London, and the other is telling a story of why Kell and Fletcher don't get along, and that Fletcher still holds a grudge, because we've learned that the whole reason that Kell didn't want to draw attention to him and Lila when he was saving her from the vendor that she stole from, he was ready to get out of there quickly, is because he doesn't want to get caught by the royal guard, because they're looking for him. He's been declared as missing. And so there are missing posters posted all over the city, and it's really cool. Lets you a little it gives you a little more idea of the magic that goes through Red London, because these are like interactive magic wanted posters or missing posters. And if you see him, click here on this poster. And so Kell and Lila have to get into this pawn shop. They can't get in through regular means because it's warded. But they use the stone again to go through. And so now they're in, and they are searching for this White Rook. They are tearing through it. And Fletcher's like, well, what are you looking for? I can help you. He comes up from behind them. So what do y'all think about this chapter before we get into the final part of this episode?
Well, okay, so it was mentioned before that Fletcher had these like marks on his wrists, and that it apparently was some sort of punishment for using binding spells, which are illegal in Red London. But then it was also mentioned that he somehow found a way to break the spells that they put on him, so he still uses this type of magic and spell. And so, like, part of back to the game of Sanct that Kell and Fletcher had, where he got this rook from Kell. Before they had that game, I guess Fletcher was trying to get Kell to work for him, because at this pawn shop, he actually trades in things that have been transferred from the different worlds. And so again, another illegal thing. This guy's sketchy. And he was trying to get Kell to like, I guess, go into business with him as like a business partner doing this stuff. And Kell said, "Well, how about if you win, I'll work for you, and if I win, then I won't." And he tricks him into losing, and so that's how this came about. So I wonder if Fletcher meant to use one of his binding spells against Kell to like bind his will to go into business with him.
What I thought was crazy was what happened after Fletcher called on the Royals. Like, do we want to talk about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, because it's payback, right? Like Fletcher assumes that if Kell's there, he probably doesn't want to be found, right? Like there's a
Right.
reason that he's not just at the castle. And so Fletcher, he's like, man, this is my moment, no
To get
hard
back at him.
feelings.
He
As
does say
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
His same
So
words.
no hard feelings, because Kell, he automatically knows. He's like, what did you do?
Yeah.
And he sees like on the poster that's like, been activated. And immediately after that, the Royal Guard comes in.
No, I mean, honestly, this is where Lila comes in clutch because like her instincts really kicked in. Like as soon as she kind of sensed Kell off a little bit, because like she knew the Royals coming was not something probably good. And so she like immediately concealed herself, like didn't even ask questions, didn't say anything, like just boom. And so that was literally the thing that's probably going to save him because like as soon as she does that, Kell kind of also senses that something is wrong. Like they get there, and so he was like, "Okay, I need to go with them quietly, or because if I try to fight, like this is not going to go well." And so he even talks about like maybe saying his goodbyes to Rye. Right? He was like, "Okay, maybe this is a moment that I needed to say my goodbye to him," because, like I said, he kind of accepted his fate of like dying as soon as he got to Black London, and so he's like maybe now I'll get to say bye to my brother before I go. And so he kind of saw it as like, okay, they're taking me home. I'll be able to talk to them and then I can leave and go back on my mission. I think Lila just needs to lay low for a bit and wait for me here. But that's not what happened at all. And so I like, as soon as that one guard stayed behind and he ended up killing Fletcher, I was like, fuck, like, okay, we are in for like more danger because that was not what was supposed to happen. He was supposed to be taking him home, but now I don't think that's where they're going at all. Like I honestly don't know what to think about that, what happened there. Like that was a huge betrayal. I mean, why would
Right.
he kill Fletcher if they said that they were gonna, reward the person that brought Kell pretty much to them? Like what? I don't know. Like, or was that somebody who was possessed with black magic? Like,
Yeah.
So, and we say we don't know because this is close to the ending of this part in this episode. So we don't see Kell and Lila again in this part because after this it goes to a completely different scene. It's kind of a waste of a Fletcher character because the whole
Yeah.
reason that Kell couldn't do anything to stop him from activating the guards from coming was because Fletcher can use bone magic. And we've learned
Yeah.
previously
oh, that's
from
right.
Kell
Yeah.
that bone magic is really powerful magic. Like it's one step away from being an Antari, basically. And so Fletcher just happens to have that ability. And so, yeah, it was like a wasted character. I still really liked his character. I thought it was really compelling and really interesting for that reason. But yeah, he just ends up dying because of the guard, because he makes the gesture that Lila sees
Yeah.
because she's still concealed in his pawn shop while they're taking Kell out. She's still concealed and she can still see everything that's happening. And she sees Fletcher, making the gesture like, oh, I need my money. And the guard's like, oh yeah, sure, let me go get it real quick. And then he's reaching in his pocket for what Fletcher thinks is money, but it's a sword. And that's when he slits his throat.
Crazy.
All the while Kell is being taken out to the carriage. So yeah.
Which she doesn't see that. So that was another thing I really liked about Lila in this moment. So she saw the murder happen and like that immediately raised alarms in her head, right? She was like, oh shit, something's going down. This is not what was supposed to happen. Like, I thought that he was part of the royal family. I thought that they were just going to take him home. And so when she saw that murder happen, she was like, should I follow them? Like, should I follow the carriage? Because she doesn't see that they knock him out in the carriage. So like they put a rag over his mouth and knock him unconscious. And so, or drag him, or what is it? What is that called whenever you do that? Drag him?
Like chloroform.
Yeah, like they
Yeah,
just
they like drugged him somehow
yeah. So they
to
drugged
knock him out.
Kel in this freaking carriage, and
Hmm.
now I wonder what the heck is gonna happen. And I hate that it ends this way because it's
Yeah,
like, where are they taking him? And it's just,
right.
but again, Lila has that instinct. She's like, I think I should follow them. Like, I think I should follow
Yeah.
that carriage.
And before he got into the carriage with the other guards, she's concealed, so he says, "I'll be back," indicating to Lila, "Stay here, don't
Yeah,
leave.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'll come back." He thinks he's just gonna go back to the palace, say bye to Rye, maybe grab a different token so that they can move on in their mission. He didn't see this coming,
Yeah.
but Lila's instincts told her, like, no, there's something wrong here. And she was right, you know. And so instead of staying, like Kel had said, she said, "No, I think I need to go find him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's in trouble."
Yeah.
Yes. So it gave a perfect sense of like foreboding into this next chapter, because what makes me feel really uncomfortable as a reader is reading when like two main characters or two characters that have really good chemistry are suddenly broken up, not through their own doing. And so they have to find their way to each other again. And like that, it's incredibly uncomfortable to read, but it propels you further to want to read so you can make it right in
Yeah.
your head
Yeah.
and make
To
it
get them
like
back together. Yeah.
satisfactory.
Yeah.
So that leads perfectly into this really kind of unsettling chapter
Yeah.
that I equate to the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. It just
Yeah.
It's not
like
as
the
bad.
sense of it's not as bad,
Yeah.
but it gives you that kind of similar sense of dread.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because we can see what's happening unbeknownst to our two guards again from the beginning of the book. We have Parrish and Jen. And they're kind of like, you know, Tweedledee and Tweedledum at this point. Like they're comic relief. And Parrish is the really like conscientious one of the two, and Jen is the more carefree of the two. And so they're having a conversation. They're being a little lax per usual, right? Because it's Rye's birthday festivities. We're at the masquerade, right? This is the party has progressed from the festival, and now we're at the masquerade ball. And so as this is happening, Parrish can see this figure kind of hobbling because it's the same figure that's kind of been desiccating, and it's kind of the skin is kind of falling off, but he can see this guy hobbling, assaulting this woman at the party. At first, Jen is like, oh, like they're just, two lovebirds and he's had one too many drinks. And so they go to investigate for a little while, but then the woman kind of goes a little limp and slack. And as the reader, we know that that's kind of the transference happening of magic. And this is spreading really quick.
Mhm.
So much so that Parrish still wants to go investigate, and so he does, but it kind of lands him in trouble. So Jen also follows him, and he gets to the hobbling figure, and the figure turns around and, basically it doesn't waste any time, reaches into Jen's chest, and pulls out his heart. And now Jen is, on the floor dead, and Parrish is like, what the heck? And so he strikes the figure with his sword, but at the same time, Jen resurrects and stabs Parrish. And when Parrish looks at him as like, why did you do that? Like Jen's eyes are
totally
completely black. Yeah. So it's the magic. The magic has spread.
I mean, okay, so this is where I had a question, and it kind of like tied back into what I was saying with like Kell and Lila. So whenever Jen kills Parrish, and Parrish is like, why would you do that? He called them a noble heart. And so that made me wonder, like, does that mean that the magic from Black London only infects people that don't have good intentions, like people that are not good? Right? Because then I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how Lila and Kell are affected by the stone differently, right? So like at first I thought that maybe Lila didn't have a good heart, but now thinking about it and like talking through some of the discussion today, like it's quite the opposite. Like Lila has the good heart and Kell doesn't, even though they kind of come off different, right? And so what if it's affecting Kell so much because he doesn't have a noble heart, but Lila does? Because maybe that's exactly why V.E. Schwab put in that random chapter about her trying to go after those bullies after, taking the coppers from that one kid, to show just how noble she is, just to show how much of a
Yeah.
good heart she has. And so like after really our discussion today, like I was like, I knew that maybe that comment, the fact that he said that Parrish had a noble heart, like that's why he
Yeah.
died instead of getting infected.
Yeah, he got killed by
Interesting.
an infected Jen.
Because he can't corrupt.
Exactly.
And like the guard that was corrupted before went for Jen's heart and not
Right.
Parrish's. Wow, that's a good point.
Yeah. And
That is a
so
great point.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking about because I was like, why would you end on that, a noble heart? I was like, okay, then why is
Right.
this only affecting Kel and not Lila? And now it's
Lila.
because we see
Yeah.
Lila does have a good heart and we've seen it through all of her
Right.
actions, as opposed to Kel, who comes off as having a good heart, but really all of his actions say
Yeah.
opposite.
Right. Like they're both not what they seem. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
Lila is supposed to be the sketchy, seedy character because she's a pickpocket.
Right.
And Kel's supposed to be the noble royal
Right.
who's, like
Flipped on its head.
Yeah.
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 Good. That's a good point.
I was like, I'm
I think
saving
that's-
it.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that's a perfect way to kind of segue into our next part because we are finished with our deep dive and it's time to go into some predictions, theories, and final thoughts. So who wants to start us off here? Because based off of what you said, I have something that I may just say it.
Go ahead.
So,
Go for it. Yeah.
but I'm wondering now that you say that, if nobility, like a noble heart, is subject to the magic, like how does the magic view nobility, like on how you have a noble heart? Because I say that because Holland seemed to have an easy time using the stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And had command of it. So even though we would consider him to be like an evil character, maybe the magic itself still sees it as noble because he has clear direction on what he wants to achieve. And Lila too, because they both operate out of that necessity, right? That necessity.
Right,
Whereas Kell has never been in a place to where he has to definitively make a decision one way or another, right? Like I could do this, I could do that. Like it's subject to what I want to do because I'm in a place of privilege.
But I don't think what I meant as far as like affecting the person, I didn't mean wielding it. Because remember, like Kel's
No, but
hand.
that's what I mean though.
Oh, okay.
Like as an extension of what you were saying.
Okay.
Like the stone's magic, or the magic itself, because it's magic, depends on your intention behind it. Because Holland even makes the comment to Kell. He's like, "Have you figured out how to use it yet?"
Oh, right.
And so
Yeah.
that leads me to believe that he has knowledge that Kell doesn't, obviously.
Right.
Right.
But also the fact that, it may just be easier for him to use because he knows exactly what he wants to achieve.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that to me was more on like how the magic takes over a body, not really how you wield the magic, I guess, is where my thought was earlier. Like, I think that people with noble hearts cannot be infected and will be the ones to be able to fight back, as opposed to like. So anyway, so my thought was back on literally page 1 of section 6. And so I was going back before we started our discussion today just to kind of make sure like I had everything I wanted to talk about. And the very first page is from the point of view of the guy who was attacking Kell. And so he even like mentions, oh, there's that young Antari, like standing in front of me or whatever. And so what caught my eye whenever I said that was like, it said, a man with an X on the back of his hand and a stolen royal sword still raised above his head. So this scene that they're describing, like literally first page, section 6, the scene that they're describing is where that, those people are attacking Kell, like the ones that set him up, right? Well, they're talking about this man having a stolen royal sword. So we thought back, when we had our predictions from the first episode, we thought it was the Red Royals or as a royal family because they had royal swords, right? But this page is telling us that those swords were stolen. So maybe not necessarily coming from the royal family who set him up. And then the other thing that really caught like kind of my attention was the thing that they mentioned was the compulsion spell already cast on him had stripped the man's resistance and allowed the other magic to slip right in. And that made me think like, it sounds like what Athos did to that kid that he was punishing, right? And so this goes along with what Stephanie thought was it was the white royals setting up Kell, and not what I thought with Rye and Holland setting up Kell. And so maybe the white royals are trying to frame the red royals to make it look like they're the ones that set up Kell, but it really was them, because if it talks about a compulsion spell, and especially one that said strip the man's resistance, that's exactly what Athos did to that kid. So
Right.
it was
Yes.
literally
Yeah.
one
It's
page.
kind of his specialty.
Right. And it was just like one
Yeah.
page of this man talking, like the one that was attacking Kell. And then we go into Lila and, him and her having Kell, whatever. And so it's like easily missed, but I went back and I was like, wait, how did I miss this whole page? Like, did I read this page? And so,
Yeah, and he's the one that's going around spreading the
Yeah.
black magic
Yeah.
across Red London
exactly.
now.
Exactly. And so I'm like, okay, now to me, this goes off, like, this kind of gives your theory from the first episode merit.
No, yeah, okay, so that's a good one. Well, okay, so now your theory is kind of like making me negate my theory, I think. Because I still think that the Red Royals are involved. Like at the end of reading this section, I was just like, okay, they knocked Kell out when he got into the coach with the other guards. Like, yeah, I was still thinking about how those guards that attacked him were carrying royal guard swords that he helped to spell. And so, yeah, that was my thought. But now, after you mentioning, well, actually, that kind of spell is more like what the Dane twins would be doing. So now I'm with you, Jen. I think you're right. It's probably the white royals, but trying to make it seem like it was the red royals.
Yeah, but then it would go to question, how are they transferring between worlds, right? To do this kind of setup. And where are they taking?
Why they needed Kell.
Yeah,
Kell's,
they set him
Kell's
up
Right.
in White London. And also, like, I think whatever Holland brought to Rye in that
the very
the
beginning.
first section at the very beginning had something to do with the setup. It has to, right?
I mean, that's what I thought too. I mean,
I don't
honestly,
know. I have a different theory on that interaction with Holland and Rye, but I also don't want to say it because I think I may be remembering something and I don't want to spoil
okay,
anything.
Okay.
don't.
So
Yeah.
I won't be saying that one.
Let's just save that for next time.
Yeah.
Let's see if it pans out.
And I was right the whole time. Yeah.
Right.
No, because I'm wondering what's going on with the carriage. I'm wondering what's going on with
Right.
them taking him instead of, I mean, and then why would I put in that part about the compulsion spell if that's what the white royals do? And so it's meant to throw us off. I don't know.
Well, there's
Yeah.
also always that mention of people's veins turning black.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
always a flashback back to Astrid.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
When they described, I was like, so there's a lot of stuff pointing to the White Royals
Yeah.
at this moment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us out of our predictions, theories, and final thoughts on this section. So I'm going to turn it on over to Steph to wrap things up, to recap.
Okay. All right, you guys. So that concludes our discussion of this part of A Darker Shade of Magic. Next time, we will be discussing sections 11 through 14. So the end of book 1 of this trilogy. We're so excited to get to talk to you guys or discuss this together. So make sure you finish the book before our next episode. We want to hear your thoughts on this section. So let us know on all our social media pages. We are Books Between Friends Pod on everything. What are your theories and predictions? What were your thoughts on this section? Do you think we're on the right track, or did you pick up on something that we probably didn't? Let us know. And then just one final reminder, next episode will be our final episode on this book, A Darker Shade of Magic. And then after that, we'll be transitioning our discussion to our next book on the Nightingale. And if you want to read along with us, we have a read along list that you can join. Just find that on our link tree, again, on all our social media pages. It's called the read along list. And something that we want to do moving forward is we'll pick one person from that list to send a free copy of a book to. So the next one will be The Nightingale. So if you want a chance to potentially win a free copy of it, go ahead and fill out that form.
Right, fantastic. So our next episode of Books Between Friends and A Darker Shade of Magic, masks come off, literally and figuratively, as we reach the explosive climax of A Darker Shade of Magic. The magic gets darker, the stakes get higher, and no one is walking away unchanged. Secrets are revealed, alliances are tested, and just when you think you know where the story is going, it knocks you out a window. Join us as we dive into the final chapters of this magical thrill ride. Who will survive? Who will level up? And what does the future hold for our favorite knife-wielding thief and brooding magician? You're not going to want to miss this one.